This looks like a good spot. Moving on.
Have you ever had this feeling of, I see how this could be good, but I don't really like it? That's pretty much the feeling that I had with Demon Turf. And I think that's a shame. Demon Turf is a 2021 3D platformer developed by Fabraz. I saw this one an odd time on Steam and was hooked by its presentation, mainly its visuals, thinking them to be quite interesting. I like the style of 2D sprites amidst 3D environments and thought it was quite creative to choose this style for a 3D platformer. I got the game and, eventually, got around to playing it. This is a very straightforward 3D platformer. You have a main hub that connects to other hub areas, kind of like how it's done in Banjo-Kazooie, and in those other hub areas you have a series of singular levels where you go through them from beginning to end, collecting some stuff along the way, reminiscing some more older games rather than 3D platformers that it seems to be inspired by, such as Super Mario 64 or Super Mario Odyssey. These two inspirations are quite apparent even, as Beebs, the main character, can do a lot of moves that remind me of Odyssey, like the mid-air dive. Well, actually it's mainly the mid-air dive, and we'll get back to how Beebs reminds me of Mario Odyssey in a while.
The demon world is inhabited by all kinds of nasties. It's separated into turfs and their gang leaders. But none stand a chance to the Demon King himself. I say it's time to kick his sorry butt out of here!
The story is very simple. The demon world has a lot of demons and many of them are part of gangs. All these gangs fight for turf amongst themselves, but there's a Demon King that none of those gangs want to mess around with. But you are the only one that has the attitude to do it. So you do just that to become Demon Queen. Oh, and what attitude does she have? So, Beebs has quite a lot of spunk, that's for sure. Maybe a little too much for my taste even. Although the story doesn't really have much going for it, the characters do speak quite a little bit. Not too much, mind you, but I think that it's a bit more than usual for the run-of-the-mill fare into 3D platforming. I don't personally mind trying to give a bit of personality for the characters of the world, but I didn't like the way the characters talk to themselves here a little bit. I thought the dialogue was a bit cringe-inducing and Beebs is just trying too hard to be cool. Well, thinking about it, her best friend is a bit of a nerd, so I wouldn't be too surprised that she was the outcast kind of character and really was trying as much as she could to be cool while failing to do so. Even so, I didn't like her that much, and that's amplified by her voice, which I didn't like either. It's not even from dialogues proper where I didn't like it much, but it was more from the voice lines and gameplay. It just feels a bit off. Like you fall down from a great height and the only thing I get from her is this meek scream that sounds more like she's just going down a slightly below average speed roller coaster. While I'm at it, let me speak a bit about the sound design in general. It's not bad, but it's not good either. There are some places where I feel would do great with an extra sound effect, like, for example, when you force a respawn to a checkpoint. Beebs just says, "Moving on," and it just feels so out of place. If there were some other sound to go with it, I think it would be alright, but it's cases like this that stick out like a sore thumb and make me become keenly aware of what is going on with the sounds of the game. Which, there's also the soundtrack. It's decent. I think it gets a bit repetitive in some of the hub areas sometimes and... Wait, is it saying let's get knocked up? That's not only me, right? I've been quite a critic for this game up to this point, but one thing I want to make clear is that none of what I said so far would be a deal breaker for me. I think it would make me end up thinking less of a game in some form, but I would still be able to get to the end and say at least, it alright. But unfortunately, I'm not quite done with the criticism with this game. It's just not fun. And I did give this game a fair shot. I played it for 7 hours. This is way beyond the amount of time that I can play to get a refund on Steam, and it's around the amount of time that some other single player games go on for from start to finish. So yeah, I did give this a fair shot. And I didn't have fun. The main reason for that is the movement. So to start off, Thieves is too slow for my taste, at least with normal walking. You can move around faster by doing long jumps or other forms of movement, but here's the catch. You can't really do any other movements after a long jump. Not from the ground, not from the air. You are locked into that jump until you hit the ground. That normally wouldn't be an issue, but in this game you have so many options for movements that get locked out as soon as you do one of these jumps, and it seems like the level design was pretty much made with some more precision platforming in mind, which isn't really what you have when you do these long jumps, which has led me to fall multiple times. Oh, have I mentioned that the level design isn't really interesting? There are some levels that open up into more open areas that are more cohesive and interesting to traverse, but a lot of the levels, especially the earlier ones, are just a bunch of different types of platforms just floating around. It's boring, uninteresting, and worst of all, it's just too easy. The first world has a bunch of levels that you go through, and I don't even really remember them all. I just know that there are some forced combat areas which the game would be better without, and a bunch of floating platforms that you use to go to the end of a level. Kind of a mind-numbing affair. All of that to get to the boss at the end of the world that allows you to use a new tool, which in the first world is the hookshot. This is all on the first trip too. When you beat the boss of a world, you can do the second trip, which is just harder versions of the same levels, and the cake collectibles are replaced by a bunch of lollipops that can be used for trading in a shop in the main hub area. The levels in the return trip have uses for the hookshot, but they're still quite easy and you don't get an extra tool at the end of the return trip, so okay, I go to the second world. Same thing. Fight the boss at the end and unlock a new tool you can continue on. The second tool unlocked is a wheel form which, whoa, actually makes me move around quickly and a bit fun to use. But yeah, it's too little too late. At this point I was already over with this game and I didn't really want to continue because, well, I had already spent so much time with it and its progression is just so slow. I do have to mention that one of the interesting things that this game does is allow you to place your own checkpoints whenever you please. That's nice, because I can just place a checkpoint in a fork in a road and go check one of the ends for some type of candy to collect and then respawn back and go the other way. I like this system. The only problem is that sometimes you don't really know where would be a decent place to set one of these up other than having the feeling that the challenge ahead might warrant placing one of these down. It's pretty much that problem with RPGs where you keep a very limited resource in your inventory until the credits roll and you haven't used any of them. So it's a good idea and it's executed well, but it takes some getting used to. I feel a little bad for ranting about this game for so long and so hard like this. This really is a matter of different strokes for different folks. I've been playing a lot of Super Metroid lately, and I've played a bunch of top-notch platformers before like Pseudo Regalia and Mario Odyssey, and what makes platforming around those games so fun is that I have the freedom to connect moves however I want, and feel like I'm in proper control of my character and I can possibly exploit them to go places I wasn't intended to go. Demon Turf doesn't really allow me to do that. Not only does it not allow me to connect my moves properly, but it has an incredibly slow progression for certain things I can use. I even heard that you get a glider later that makes movement drastically different, but I'm not living to see that. And there just isn't much I can do in terms of exploiting the movements I can connect to reach areas or kind of do unintended things. Well, I could do some of that when I got the wheel, but like I said, I already had lost interest by then. I still stand by the fact that the presentation is top-notch and it deserves to be the main reason why I was attracted to this game. Even if I kind of dislike the character designs upon closer inspection, and I wish the NPCs had more angle sprites because they just look even more ugly this way. Despite all that, Fabraz managed to find success with this game, and they have released, since then, a sequel with Demon Tides and are now working on Bubsy 4D. I have seen the trailers for both games and it kinda seems like they have learned some things about all this movement limitations, but I'm not entirely sure if I want to take the dive myself just yet. God, especially not with Bubsy. Have I been too harsh for this game? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, remember to like the video and subscribe. Until next one, take care.